All right, welcome again. We're doing the thing. We're gonna paint. Still working on my overall big project. So this is Mary and the Christ child, and today I'm gonna work on the face and try to get a nice, soft, gentle portrait made. And I hope that you can hang out and enjoy and shoot out questions and ask them later. I'll kind of go over, why and what I chose to do here with mixing skin tones. So a lot like last time, I've kind of worked a scale here of kind of an orange, dark to light, bit of a purple, dark to light, green, dark to light, and then numerous tints of some of the various tube colors I have up here: lead white, cad yellow, yellow ochre, cad red, cerulean, meridian, alizarin crimson, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue. And I'll still have those. I can dip into those anytime, but I wanted to mix some colors here just to get a few things that, they're ready. Maybe they'll look good right when I put them down. Maybe I'll mix some of them together. Maybe I'll mix some of them along with some of the tube color that I have out. All those things are coming to play, and I think it ends up working well together, this system. So let us begin. My children yelling from downstairs. It's Thanksgiving break, so I hope everyone is getting a chance to, or maybe it's just about Thanksgiving break for everybody. It is around here anyway. Okay, I want to right off the bat just get my surface ready, and you've seen me do this before. And I just take a little makeup sponge, and I've got some walnut oil gel here. And sometimes you stick your finger in oil paint, just happens that way. We may be having that the chat may be broken again. I don't know. David, you might, if you got a second, might see if you can sort that out, because it's doing the thing where it says it's unable to connect, and I bet it's the same thing that happened last time. Well, where I unplugged the modem as I was going, and I think that's. So if you can you type anything? Is that possible? You can feel free to move the screen, rotate it, do whatever you need to do. Well, David's figuring that out, because I don't want to miss out if you have any questions. I just rubbed some walnut oil gel in here on the surface of where I'm going to work. And what that does is that just gives me a little bit of viscosity for me to work into, rather than working on top of dry paint. And normally I would kind of carry that out, and I would try to get some of this blue nice and oiled up too, because that would then show me what that blue looked like before it has dried and it's gotten sunken in. But I know that it is not quite ready to do that. The paint is still wet. And in fact, I'm very likely gonna put my pinky in some wet paint, as can happen. So working on that chat thing. If not, we may have to just stop and start again or something like that.
It might be working, and that's the message that it gives you.
Okay.
It wasn't in the
Because you're typing a message. Yeah. If you're watching, try to throw a message in the chat, and just that would be great. It'd help us out to know if we're okay. All right, so that is oiled out, ready to go. And as you know, it was kind of joke, but it's true. I mean, as always, I like to start with my dark that I've mixed here, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, and that's going to be the darkest point of anything I'm working on today. So I see a couple of those spots, kind of up here in the temple and the corner of the hood, and then the cloak, the head covering, and then right here, you know, those spots here, those are all going to be these darkest points, and they'll be nice because I get those in, and then I can kind of start comparing to everything else. So here it goes. Hopefully we'll have about 2 hours here, and we'll get things more or less blocked in. We'll of course see how it goes. I always say, I don't know that anyone believes me, but you know, it can be a bad painting day. I have those.
And Elisa said Happy Thanksgiving.
Hey!
And hello, but you cannot see it.
I cannot see it.
And I can see your chat.
Huh.
I can say, hi, is this working?
So that's interesting. Well, hello and happy Thanksgiving. And I'm hoping we're gonna do the female form today, and then hopefully get a nice bearded form tomorrow. Since I should still have these skin tones nice and fresh, so get pumped up. I don't know I think it'll be tomorrow, probably. I want to try to keep these colors as fresh as possible. Still working around here. Yeah, my chat unfortunately is broken, and I can't see from my vantage point what's happening. So this shadow is really dark, and what that's going to do is it's going to really give this sense of, you know, when I get this in here, that once, you know, we've built everything else in, the head is really underneath this nicely almost sculpted drapery. A little bit of my kids playing the piano. They don't play the piano. I mean, they hit keys. So if you hear the ivories going, I don't know. Until you've been around a child and a piano, you never know. I did show my son, who he is 6, so he could start doing some lessons, but we kind of watched their interests. He hasn't really shown too much interest, and I've kind of showed him how to make a chord, so that's improved some of the sounds that come out of the piano. So I'm still kind of hunting around, finding these really dark shadows. Yeah, there we go. And it'll be nice. That really will outline the face, and we'll feel the space back in there. We get these areas nice and dark. The face light, the light will come forward, the dark will recede, and you'll really see those two acting as they do. I mean, it's just one of those natural things. Something you can do at any point in your art is use darks and lights to kind of create space and to make things look three-dimensional and kind of sit back into space. And this area is not as dark. A little kind of yellowy white, almost headband here. It's just showing just back there just a little bit. I'm gonna get my darker value really rich and dark. I'm gonna bump it right up to, so I'm barely moving the brush, trying to come right up against the blue, and there we got it. I don't want to cover it, but I want to get the paint right up next to it, so we don't have any edges that are undone or got a little bit of wacky color showing, ruining our illusion. If you're painting, if you're creating anything, you're trying to create a sense of space. If you're doing naturalism or realism, and so that's always, when you got there, when it starts to work. And that's, if there's a key takeaway to this whole lesson, is that I'm just going to keep working on this until it works, until it starts working. So what I had done beforehand, before I even started this video, is I had a ground layer here, which was just raw umber, and that was applied by Sean, my assistant, and he rubbed that into the canvas, and that created this color you see here. Then on top of that, I took some of my mixed black, and after drawing it in, I took some of my mixed black and built up some of these darks here, and then I took some of the lead white and built up some of the lights as I saw them. And then if I felt like it was a mid-tone or about the same value range, then I just left the ground layer where it is. And so when we work on top of these, you're going to see each of those start to kind of show up. I think I'm ready to take the next step. And now when I look, I don't really see any more dark black areas, but I start to see a little bit of color. So there's kind of a warm red line that's pretty dark for her mouth. It gets really warm here in the neck, the shadow. So I will start painting that in. Again, the hair, I'm going to make it darker than it is here. So, but that'll be another point where it just gets a little lighter. It's going to get a little lighter, and probably I see some of that same warmth in and around the eyes, a little bit of a cooler, definitely warm underneath the nose, always warm in and around the nose. A lot of blood vessels, and our semi-transparent bodies do some interesting things. So shadow will be nice and warm under the nose. So those will be the areas that I'm going to jump to next as I work kind of from my darkest points to my lightest points. I kind of noticed I didn't quite wrap this up here. Get ahead of myself, get distracted. Want to move on. Okay, I'm going to use the same brush since I'm keeping the color pretty dark. I'm going to take my kind of reddish orange dark here, so it might be hard to see on a palette cam, but this is pretty much a black. This one is kind of a reddish orange. It's a warmer dark, very near the black, but it is perceptibly different. And so I'm gonna just use that to kind of work into the mouth here. Not quite dark enough, I don't know, but I don't want to lose some of that warmth. It's just one of those interesting things that sort of happens. Again, also thinking all along the way, I'm trying to capture Mary looking down at the Christ child, and so this is tender. I'm gonna want to be thinking about how I can make things nice and soft. because even the way the paint is applied will communicate. And tomorrow, in contrast, I'll be, working on a male form, and it's Joseph, and of course he's gonna have, it's gonna be a little more rough, a little more just, I could be a little more painterly, and it'll just work. But this one's gonna remain very soft, because everything else is kind of moving down while she's glancing down, and there's some diagonals that are just kind of moving the eye here, and so we want to continue making this nice, so that it just communicates down and with a genteel spirit. So I've been really kind of focusing on that. Probably won't spend the whole time that it will take to really refine it on camera. I'm just going to work on getting most of it blocked in, and going over a few things, and hopefully by the time we get to the end of this, we've got a few nice passages that we really enjoy. Okay, so I feel like I got most of the warm. Well, I could probably do a little more here. This feels pretty warm. It's a bit lighter than that. That might be all right. Just right above the eye here. And on the same, might go with a little more of my dark purple. This feels a little cooler on this side. I don't know if you can see that when you take a look at it. This one's a little more orange, this is a little more purple. And that's a lot of what working on skin tones is this gentle kind of back and forth, where I'm constantly comparing one part to the next, and to the next, and to the next, until I feel like it's there. Okay, so I haven't changed the brush. I'm still using the same brush. And now I'm going to look, and I see some cooler, darker areas that, feel like the side of her face here, which would be reflecting some of this blue. It just looks a little cooler here. So I'm going to take my kind of greenish color here. We'll see. This may be a little too much, but maybe not. And we'll kind of just put some of that in there. I'm going to come back and be a little more gentler with that, but just for your time and my time, kind of move a little faster. Still looking around. I think that's about all I want to do. I do want to come back in here with some of these darks, and just again, this is me searching. So when you're painting, constantly do that search while you're working on certain colors and values. So I see in particular right here on the eye. This is just me looking, and I know when you're looking at the source material that you're working from, doing the same thing. And I see there's just really kind of dark spot right there, before it gets softer with the lashes. Same on the other side. This feels a little warm, but I still see this. I'm gonna find a point for me to put down my pinky. I don't want to lose the drawing, so I'm just trying to kind of keep to it, but a few of these passages are very dark. I can put my finger here for the moment. I like using a brush that's a flat, because right now, of course, I can, it can be a line if I need it to be. And then I can do more of a shape as I need to, or even a point if I were to use the very corner of it. All right, still kind of working around. There's this nice area that's just a little darker underneath this eyebrow. The same on that other side. Looks a little cooler, so I'm gonna, if I look at this one looks warmer and darker. This one looks a little cooler and lighter, so I use some of my dark green that I mixed. All right, I like that. And onward and onward. So I think the next lightest area that I see, or working from dark to light, is probably some of the shadows here on the nose, and then of course probably the rest of the shadows in underneath the brow. And so I'm going to take another step lighter, and so I was kind of working in this range here, these darks. So here is another step lighter, and these aren't necessarily me adding white to these because they would essentially turn gray by the time they turn down here. But each one of these I'm mixing with these colors to try to achieve a color that is both rich. So while I might have made this green using some of my black and some of Viridian, this green would have been made mixing yellow ochre and cerulean to kind of get a green about that color. And it's a lighter green and it can kind of work, but it's not me just adding white to something to get it lighter, but trying to use as many colors as I can until, yes, eventually I do have to use white in order to achieve some of the lights that I'm seeing in the skin tones. But as long as I can, I'll really avoid using white until it's necessary, just because it really steals all your rich color. All right, let's dive into that brow. Any luck, David? Okay.
I can see her, so.
Okay, all right, you're the man.
But no one else has written anything, so I don't know
Okay.
if it's still working or not.
All right, well. So start to kind of build this little shadow line here in the nose, and I see feel like that same colors on the bottom of it and around, and up to this side. It gets a little lighter and thinner as it goes around there, and we will address that. I think that about that same color, this upper lip looks like it has that as well. I may dig into a little bit of alizarin crimson, just a tad. I may regret that, but just to create a little more warmth in here for this upper lip that's in the shadow. All right, so I kind of followed that. I'd like to do this shadow on the side of the face. It's cooler at first. I'm going to kind of take this purple and work my way down. It's reflecting this blue cloth. Kind of starts here, and then I feel like it gets a little warmer as it comes down here, as it's reflecting some of her own skin tones on her upper chest, as well as the child. So that's when I can kind of take some of these warmer skin tones, and then, I've made a shift, right? Cooler to just slightly warmer, and these are just those little comparisons that I'm making. And you'll notice, we've only done a little bit just in the shadows, really haven't messed with everything, but it's already starting to work. And so we're, means we're on track. We've not gotten off too far. I think that same, as I've already got it on my brush, find it elsewhere, right in here, right below the lower lip. If I can see a little bit of that same color. And there's going to be small changes that I end up making here, but just for our purposes and for the video, we're going to kind of move along, I guess. So I really liked how this pose ended up working out. It feels very Leonardo, feels very Raphael, as some of the great paintings that they've made of Mother and Child or Madonna on the Rocks, or these. And so for me, when I kind of saw her face looking down, I was like, whoa, this is the one. And so a lot of times with my models, I only have so long on a photo shoot, and so I'm really hoping to find, you know, that picture that is just like, wow, that is it. And you know, I feel like I got a few that were just really good, really strong. So I've been excited about this for. I've not made this one. I think I took pictures for this months ago, but this is one of the ones I was really excited to make and to get to. So much so, I mean, I know this happens to us all, but it happens to me too, where like, I mean, there's just parts of your work that you're more excited to do than others. And this one I was like, I can't wait to paint this face, paint it with just the soft and genteel kind of look, loving look downward, and really capture it, so that, I don't know, you know, so any viewer just is immediately smitten as well. Figured I wanted to get this dark shadow under the neck a little more built out, and you can see I'm just watching what's happening there. So it's really dark back here, and then it's just a careful game of looking. So watching that slowly get lighter and lighter, and just trying to build up that transition. Realized I focused on other areas and hadn't taken a look at that yet. And it gets lighter. We could probably leave that about where it is for now. Even this shadow there. We'll come back to it. It gets a little red, orange, dark. Okay. Okay, I like how it's coming so far. Nothing's bugging me too much. I want to get the rest of the darks below the brow, and those are looking a little cooler, a little more. They're not quite as warm. They're a little more beige, tan, whatever you want to call it. And so, you know, I have some of those colors already mixed up. Again, if you're just joining, I've taken these 9 colors, talked about at the beginning of the video, and I've mixed up the skin tone palette here. And so I'm going to take probably a little bit of this purple in here, and maybe a bit of this. It's a little cooler, so I want to pay attention to that. And I'm just going to start building that up. Now, I put the purple in, but to me, it's looking a little greener. So again, one of the reasons why I love building up this pile is I can take a little bit of it and try to put it in there and see what happens. See if that does seem to fix it. And I can keep working some of these subtle neutrals, because one of the things with our skin tone, no matter what race we are, is that it's very low in chroma, meaning, you know, none of these colors up here are you going to find just straight out of the tube in the skin tones. Sometimes I'll use them, but it's usually on the edge to create some visual interest. But you're never going to find, you know, straight tube color out here. So you're always going to want to be mixing. And Graydon Parrish, who is a phenomenal painter, if you've ever seen his work, you know, he essentially says, you know, we're all the same. We're kind of a low chroma orange, all of us, every human walking on this planet. So we've got a lot more in common, and he's right. We're kind of all of us, low chroma orange, and so you can kind of play in and around that with some warms, some cools to make those things happen. Notice this little dark area right here I wanted to add. That's really critical because, you know, we're seeing the light fall on the cheekbone here. That's reflecting up into the top of the brow. And so, you know, this little deeper pocket here is going to tell us, you know, making that a little darker, that, you know, cheekbone goes in and then comes back out. And those are just those fun things you find as you go. Gonna keep working around. So looking at that, this area in here, Again, this kind of green almost right above, so just a little cooler. I'm going to put that in, and this lighter tone here I feel like kind of comes across. I like that. It's probably going to need to get a little darker, and also it's about the same tone of her eyebrow, kind of noticing. So I'm going to use that to add a little bit to the top of the eyebrow. All right, I realize, as I am wont to do, again, I miss something. The eyelashes, you know, this is one of those things where, I don't know, I'm not going to take a single brush and a single hairbrush and try to describe every one of those. It's just not necessary. And it's one of those things where it's going to detract. And if I'm going to describe every single one of these hairs, I better describe every single one of these folds to such a precision that it's consistent. And, you know, everything needs to be worked in the same kind of vein, same power, same. You don't want to under or overdo some areas at the cost of others. You want a consistency. It's like certain brushes. Like, when you see a landscape artist use a fan brush, and you can see that, okay, everything else was depicted using a certain brush, but then there's suddenly a fan brush that's just kind of sticking out like a sore thumb to make a few leaves. And it's like, oh yeah, that's not gonna do. And so yeah, thinking in terms of the whole, working it about the same. So if I unfocus my eyes and I look at her eyes and I look at her eyelashes, I see a few colors. I do see a few that really even stick out when I unfocus my eyes, and I may focus on those and add just a little bit of that. But what it's going to be is it's going to be a brush mark, something like that, and that's it. I'm not going to try to do anything more on that end. A little darker still here than I have it. Remember, in working with the face, we're working with a lot of volumes. So her head is one big sphere. Each of the eyes is one big sphere. The forehead is like a sphere. The cheekbone, the nose. All these are going to be, we're going to model each of them as we go. We don't want to get too off track. So I'm a little warmer there, I thought, kind of in the edge. Maybe even below in her eyebrow. One of those funny things with hair is oftentimes it's a lot greener than we think. So, I'm going to use some of my dark green, switch up the brush hold just so I can kind of use the shape of the brush. Just create a little bit of that there. I'm going to create that effect, but I see it with some other lighter colors, and we're going to hopefully get to that. That'll be fun. The shadow is not nearly as harsh as I did for my underpainting, so I'm going to just calm that down a little bit. It looks a little cooler, and I'm going to quickly, I think this is a safe spot to put my finger. The paint is just slightly tacky. Just a little, I'm going to lighten this some. I think this won't feel as heavy when I do this. There we go. All right, next area, lighter. So with me from the beginning, I started working in these dark areas, and I've now put in some of these other shadows as I work my way toward the light. And now, what I did the under the brows, so I see probably the next area that is next darkest are probably some of the shadows around the eyelids here, and then carrying this shadow up a little higher, shadow here in the upper lip, and so that's what my eye sees as kind of the next focus. And so we'll jump in and do that next part. Looking at my skin tones, I think that means probably starting into this range. So, we went here, we were here. Now I'm going to kind of work into this range a little bit, and we'll kind of see where we end up. So I'm going a little lighter. I'm still using the same brush as when I started. So I've not even changed a brush. I've not cleaned it. I've not, I don't even have mineral spirits out to clean my brush. And so, yeah, I'm just using my mixed color here. And, I use a lot more thinner when I'm painting the underpainting, or I'm working on some big areas. These small, intimate areas, I'm not going to be using a lot of thinner. All right, so I'm going to still put in some of these shadows as I see them. The shadow kind of comes right up, that dark shadow here, almost imperceptible where her upper lip begins and the shadow starts, and that's okay. When that happens, don't feel like, oh, I've got to describe this so that it, so that you can tell the difference. It's a lost cause. You want to. Naturalism involves lost edges and things that you can't quite make out, and that's all right. Again, I see this area here. And this light is going to be so important here. I'm going to leave it, this corner of this mouth. She has a slight upturned smile, and we want to make sure that we get that. So I'm just going to leave that there for now. And I just can't get over how much this is resembling, just the face resembling kind of a Leonardo or Raphael. Just the overall look. And so if we get some of this softness here around the mouth, it'd be, we're aiming for Da Vinci. We'll settle for an Ernest Vincent Wood III. A bit of movement there. Here too, I could kind of soften that edge because I see it. There's that dark shadow, but then it kind of turns really red. And then a little cooler on this side, and it's reflecting that blue. All right. It's feeling warm in here. All right, I think that, so that's where I want to get next. I want to get in around the eyes. Those are warmer, so, I've pulled in some of, it's kind of purple. In my drawing, I had made that a little sharper there. I wanted to bring it in some. This side's warmer, but you notice that other side of the eyelid is a game of comparisons. This one compared to this one, both lighter and cooler. So we can maybe come in here obscenely, get a little bit, some of this kind of green, and begin putting it in. I can see some of that up there too. Maybe here as well. Okay. Onward, onward. Asking myself where else I kind of see that color. I see it here. A little cooler, this side. I think I see it kind of coming down here. Some, maybe casting a little bit of a shadow here. Her eyelashes. All right, I think that's about it. Again, moving another shade lighter. I'm gonna work on, I see this area of the nose. Probably I can start carrying across the forehead a little bit in this region. Here, here. Again, another line here, here, and probably also this far side of the face. Which if you take a look at it, temperature is pretty cool. So, you know, I've got my, probably overdone it here, but I'll take in some of this green and I'll just begin working across. A little bit of that in this corner here too. It's a little exaggerated. It feels, it is certainly warmer and pinker along here, so. There. Here. Again, starting to work into the forehead a little bit too. So this is about the time when I usually abandon this brush and I grab another one because I really like to use like a mid-value brush, like a dark value brush and a light value brush. And so most of these are going to be kind of my mids, and I know I've already mostly worked into the mids, but I'm going to keep that as my dark value brush. And at this point, you know, I've been using some sharper edges. I'm going to get a little softer, and I'm going to look for, as soon as I find one, go for a filbert. It's a little bigger than I want. It's a little harder than I want. I think we'll go with this one. A little big for this, but we're going to start working in some of these bigger areas. That's all right. So by this point, looking at everything, you know, I do start to miss some things, but right now we're mostly working in these mid-range values here. Down into here. And this is where we're going to really start to make some quick headway on the piece as I just look for and find these areas on the face that have, and keeping my eye open, looking for those areas. And at this point, I'm not too concerned with, you know, getting it just right as much as getting something in. Because as soon as I get something in, then I can start making some more informed decisions. Been wanting to cover that up. this side of the face just feels a little cooler in general. So I'm, you notice I put that color in, and that value is almost identical to, the value in just the ground layer that we rubbed in at the beginning. And this is where, if you blink, you kind of miss it come together. I mean, not really, but it's still painting. It's still a time-consuming process. But, I'm working my way. You see, I put down that color. It was way too intense. So I immediately, I was like, wait, too red. Grabbed the corresponding green, knocked it down, and then also, starts to create some of those interesting green, red transitions that are so fun in Caucasian skin tones. A little cooler above the brow there. Just gonna leave that in there. I still paint over that. It's a little darker. I think I see this slight shape here, the forehead. Can probably go ahead and the eyelids are not all that light, so we can kind of start getting those in. It's these really bright highlights on the cheek and the head that we're gonna probably switch again, one more brush, lighter. I was saving it. It's not gonna be all that exciting, but in the corner of the mouth here. Yep, totally did it. Totally put my pinky down in wet paint. Knew I would do it. Neighbor's rocking out today. A little warm area kind of here. Something across here. Probably not. Didn't need to make it that red, but it happened. Little red, the nose always so warm. Again, here's where the color really starts to happen. I can probably come down here even. And I'm still working with a pretty big brush here. I don't have, my goal is to block in, and we'll get to some of the smaller things when the time's right. Okay. Still working my way. Maybe get a little lighter. Lighter. And then It's a little cooler on the far side. Thanks for all you do, David.
I forgot I started him.
Again, filling in here. You know, in comparison, you know, this is going to be the lightest point. That'll be, you know, like pretty good reflection here, or highlight here in the nose, and then certain parts of the face as well. But we are getting there. Can use some of the most intense chroma in and around that highlight. As I work toward it, I'm going to kind of do the same thing while I've got a little bit of this on my brush. Kind of can work my way up. So you can see how, you know, it's just really coming together. You know, my training is from life, so I would have only so long with the live model each session, and when that's the case, there's already kind of a rushed feeling, and so because it's like, oh, I've got to capture as much as I can before the break. You know, no break here. Don't worry, we're not going to take a break. But do got to get as much in as I can. Get the edge of the nose in here, a little warmer. Some of these lighter values here in the face, and then we'll start kind of playing and finding some of those nice subtle shifts. But until then, we're just working into it. Nice, another plane of light kind of gets captured right here. The corner of the mouth. And here, the light travels around. So using these pretty sparingly. It's definitely kind of a highlight here in the corner of the nose. Runs down to the lip here. And it's a great time to kind of talk about color banding. It's a thing that you can notice that happens when there will be kind of a cooler area in the neck and the mouth, a warmer band kind of across the cheeks and the bridge of the nose, and then it gets kind of cooler again across the eyes, or there's a lot of variation of cool and warm areas around the eyes, and then generally the head starts to get a little cooler, a little more yellowy. It's Sargent did it really well, and you can see breaks down. If you look up color banding and Sargent portraiture, you can find some of these great breakdowns that people have done to kind of show what he's about, in these areas, and that's incredible. Okay. Coming up around the eye, a little dark. This is going to be nice highlight on that cheekbone, but not our highest one. So this is another good time where I'm going to set that kind of mid-tone brush aside, and then I'm going to get out the next lightest brush, and this will henceforth be kind of my highlight brush. And I'll also want to keep it kind of soft, so it's not a lot of this is fairly worn, but I think it'll still do the trick. I may ditch it. I'm gonna put in some of these highlights. This is a little too much. Oh yeah. So, I if it was a little too blue, then it was a little too green, and it was just continued to play with it until it's like, yeah, there it is. Highlight there. I could carry that just down a little bit here. Certainly across the nose. I mean, we can see that. That's a bit of exaggeration. We'll beat that down some. Some across here, just a little bit. And then, of course, the big one that we're looking at will be up here. And that space, I'm gonna kind of reserve for the most kind of intense area of light, which I'm not using pure white. There is for this highlight, it is alizarin crimson and the lead white, partially because I wanted to give it a little color, and this way it still reads as a highlight, and then doesn't. White would stick out as completely, it's not mixed with anything. So. Okay, so this is a great time to just pause and take a look at the painting and say, I've initially set out what I meant to do. You can call this color tiling. You can call it, blocking in. A lot of terms for it. Basically, it's like, let's take a look at the major relationships and put those in place so that we can make a decision kind of where to go next. What do we want to focus on? What's working? What's not? Is there a weird drawing thing? Those are all of the things that I'm going to pay attention to in these next steps. Just trying to figure out, okay, what's not quite done that needs to be done? What do I really want to, spend a lot of time on and get right? And, this is kind of where all that begins. Now, I built all these colors on top of an underpainting. If you scroll back, you can see it. It's not, the underpainting wasn't really finished. It was just, just some lights, some darks, and some mids. That's it. And but that allows me to put this highlight in here, which is still very transparent, directly on top of that white that was already there. Kind of looking around, I want to work into this area. A lot of times, this is the moment where, I'm assessing, yes, but I'm also deciding, okay, what haven't I covered? Or there's some weird edges here and there that aren't quite working, and we kind of go from there. So again, respecting your time, respecting my time, I'm looking at probably another hour, and I'm not gonna work this all the way to refined, but I am gonna start paying closer attention to some of the details now. I've already done the major work. If we need to come back in and work some of those, we will. But this is another great time where I then begin to do a kind of a brush shrinking moment where I just get a little smaller with the brushes. Usually I don't get out the liners, although I will get a few out. I just usually get a little smaller, something kind of like this. So, maybe even a round, but has a point to it, or even a smaller flat filbert. No, that's a flat. So I'll probably start kind of working in these and just refining. And as needed, I'll use some of the liners for the edges. And that's where I'll kind of pump in all that intense color. So I really wish the chat was working. Sorry if you are sending chats, I'm not seeing it. It's just not working today. I awesomely unplugged my cable modem as the live stream started. It's great things you do. There's no turning back when that happens. So I'm gonna start, I think I'm gonna start with the mouth. It looks the least done. I know it needs some attention. There, so probably I'll kind of focus here, and I'll work my way up. We'll see how far we get. And I'll probably get distracted. Let's just go ahead and get that out there right now. I'm gonna see something that I want to do just because I'm excited about it, and I'll end up doing it. Wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't do that. Okay, getting going here. I'm looking at this line that is her chin, which is just, reflecting some of the light underneath it. And I'm just going to pay a little more attention to that. Um, in the same way that I was, kind of working the hole before, I'm going to try to do the same thing here, even in this space. So we're just looking in and around the mouth. What am I missing? What do I need to pay attention to? There is kind of a point here. This light, I think I made it too light. But we can see what happens. And there'll be a lot of back and forth. I'll set something down. It's just not right. It's not quite working. And this is going to be a time where I'll, in and around the mouth, I won't be afraid to use some of this color that is, I can dip directly into like alizarin crimson for this line because I see it. So I'm still painting what I'm seeing. But is this really rich dark. Kind of all those reds bouncing around and seeing about how far they come up. Looks like this one comes up to there just a little bit. I'm probably going to spend another, even after the stream, I'm going to spend another many hours on this piece. But we'll see. We'll see at what point I'm like, okay, because what starts to happen in this space, at least on live streams, is like there's not a lot that you can kind of see that's happening. It is small refinement over time. And here's another great kind of, we were talking about those lines, like you almost can't tell where her lip begins and the skin, the lip and the skin meet. It's very nearly the same, and it's okay to just kind of let those run together. And you can see, it still works. I didn't have to be specific. It's there and it's working. And you're thinking about this lip as an overall volume. Now it starts to turn down here, so I'm going to include this plane, which I hadn't put in yet. And again, it was one of those things that was missing. It was added, and look how much that just changed the modeling of the lip. Again, we're looking, and I already like the bottom lip 10 times better. I'm going to use that same color just up here as well. I didn't really quite get this space. Seems like it goes up here some. And come back in with these darks. This line is very dark in this mouth. Still searching. I think this comes around this chin, just kind of see. Soften that line a little bit. I've still got this color on the brush that's kind of an in-between, and I can work to soften that transition too. Feels a little warmer underneath here, and that needs just a little bit of a line. So, I'll get out the little liner to kind of send that back and around. This space is about looking, seeing really what needs to happen. Way happier with that already. Those are just a few changes, but I think they made a big difference. Kind of working towards the upper part of the mouth. There's kind of a warm part of this shadow here as it comes across. So a little bit of the reflection light on the underside of the nose. I'll try to put in here just a tad. And then really this can make this red across here a little more. Yeah, I think we're doing okay there. And I think maybe I'm happy with that other side. Another thing I like to do is, if I think some of the pieces are mostly there, like I feel good about a lot of this over here. I've got this little buffer brush that I'll just take and kind of work in to here. You notice my stroke is following the form, and when I come down on the lip, I'll pull it this way, or if I'm working across the chin here, or trying to build these, even the mark itself also can be a big help. It's a little bit of a shape to the cheekbone. I'm going to try to, I don't know if I'll do it in the live stream, but I'm excited to kind of get in there and work on. So I like how that's going. It can use some more refinement, certainly, but as of right now, I don't want to really take it too much farther because nothing else is to this point. So let's hop to the nose now, and maybe I'll kind of work this upper lip a little bit. It's a little softer there than what I have it. And here's a place where I've noticed just there's a little edge that I didn't get, and on the mouth there, and so I will just work to put that in really quick. I can still see some white drawing line there. Okay. All right, now a little bit of space here. I'm just trying to kind of work my way up. So we'll dive in to the nose, the area around the nose. Kind of this next refining pass. All right. Yeah, I don't want that. I'd like to have that a little more green. It feels a little cooler. It's probably a bit much. I can wipe off the brush some. The slightest amount of light falling on that lip. That was just pure. I didn't need to put that in. The shadow still feels a little warm. I can get back out my dark brush, and that just extends a little farther here. And those are things that are important. I mean, I know you'd kind of say, well, why did we have to do that? And those are the little things. And sometimes they matter, sometimes they don't. I think that's the secret to good painting, is just knowing what's going to matter and what's not. Taking that good bits of information. All right, so taking a look in around the nose. Nose nice and warm. Can always almost overdo it. And some of those areas they weren't at all addressed yet, and I finally got a little bit of information there. that just wasn't there before. Okay. I was trying to think of back when I started this whole process. Some of you might have been with me. Well, not this painting, but the very first painting of this 7 painting series. Possibly back in June. Got a little bit of a highlight here. It has been long. One more painting after this one to really wrap things up. It's been a lot of life balance to make it work. Okay. Again, working around, seeing what's needed, what's not. There's a pretty dark shadow right underneath the nose here. And then it comes around, and this will be a little bit of work for the liner brush. And another time where you can use, like the alizarin crimson, you can really use a lot strong color here because it is very warm. As it comes around here. Okay. I'm going to cool that off a little bit. There is a shadow here. Might use just some of this green. It may. The shadow just got a lot cooler when it comes around. So I'm going to plunk that down and preferred like it. Do the same over here, only I think this edge right here just looks a little warmer. Okay, so you can see we've taken I'm gonna call this my highlight that I just used a really big brush, dove into that a little too soon, and and here's a great thing to kind of hone in on here, and this is key no matter what you're working on. Look at how warm the nose is, but as you travel up, this area between the eyes, very cool. It's kind of yellow and green, and so those are shifts that we're going to really key into: warm, cool, green, red. One of the reasons why I kind of like working in secondaries for skin tones, and yeah, I can pull out the primaries anytime, but where we're going to move into that kind of cooler, more yellowy green region here at the top of the nose. And someday I will figure out how to get my camera oriented so that it matches the color a little bit better of what I'm working on. Looking very much less chromatic and more yellowy than it is in real life. It's closer to the source material for sure. All right, we're going to carry this up. Still warm there. All right, now this is that shift I'm talking about. I'm gonna bring in this kind of cooler green, yellowy green into this space. And it needs to be a little lighter. So I can take something that's a little more kind of yellow. Soften that out, and then kind of on either side. Looks like it's a little green. I guess I'll get a little more up here, and then kind of turns this little blue almost in this region. I mean, okay. I'm going to get back out the buffer because I think for the most part the just noticed something. I always kind of find these little spots. I'm like, oh, I didn't quite get that in here. There's some little bit of my drawing left, but also saw an opportunity to also happen to be kind of where a shadow was. So I'll put that in there. And I'll get out the little buffer again, and I'll just kind of, it's just a little hard there, but it's definitely there, and I want to keep that kind of light space there near the corner of the nose. Soften this across here. And we can do the same nose. So, and every stroke is not necessarily a straight. It's kind of a curve. To help us really imagine those forms going back, these forms coming forward. Imagine the stroke is almost as though you're kind of looking at a pipe. And so, if you're looking at a pipe straight on, you're going to make a stroke like this. It's going to tell you that it's kind of coming forward. So I'm trying to do the same thing you know, with each one of these facial features. Okay. All right, I think that's good. That's this level, about the same. So we're going to keep moving across kind of these cheekbones here. I'll pay attention to that and then move into the eyes. And so here we go. So I know I kind of said I wasn't going to try, but I don't know, I might. See how this works. It's like a little bit of a shape here I'd love to get. In order to do that, I think I'm going to have to get out my darkest dark just to kind of butt into that little edge I have. We'll get to it later. So laid that color in. You can tell immediately, whoa, too dark. Was not seeing. So I'm gonna have to come in, get a few lighter tones, and kind of calm it down. I did want to carry something about like this a little higher. That is what I see in the model. Yeah, I'm kind of dying to just get the shape a little bit better here. So what is it about these things that suddenly are important? I don't know, but they just happen sometimes. That's just one of those great mysteries of this whole process. Is like, oh, something's talking to me about this edge here, and I'm gonna work it out just a little more than I have there. That slight curvature, this almost unnecessary, almost. Something keeps telling me, get it in there. Okay. Good enough to move on. Gitmo. Good enough to move on. As I continue working on. All right, working my way up, continuing to try to get everything to about the same level of render, moving into the eyes and the cheeks, the cheekbones. Always a lot going on in and around the eyes, a lot to pay attention to, a lot to get right, a lot to get wrong. If you're interested in kind of probably my most watched video is the my eye tutorial. By far, I don't know that any other video will ever meet it. So we get a little bit of a highlight here, a little more. Just a little bit here. I told you to get distracted on the way. Or suddenly that became the most important thing for me to do. Always kind of strangely greener and cooler and around the eye. And these are the big sudden things. I'm like, oh, that whole area is just not light enough, and it's a little more yellowy and orange than I have it, and I can drop that in. The shadow is kind of hard, and I know essentially I've got the color already loaded on the brush that is essentially all these things. Gotta be careful around the eyebrows. Of course, we do this. I mean, even now you're not seeing my face, but I'm talking with my eyebrows. They're animating the things I'm saying. And so, a lot is communicated. And so we will make sure that as we begin working on those, the drawing is communicating the feeling. Want to exaggerate, focus on. So far so good. Really enjoying how things are going. Let's start getting specific here around the eye. A little too. That one was just. Kind of too gray. Still needs a little bit of color, and this is a drawing thing where I'm kind of watching about how far it goes up, in comparison to like the edge of the eye. How far does this go up? Tells the viewer size and shape and the structure of what's happening. Sorry if you're joining or you just joined. Chat isn't working for me. I think if you have questions, just drop them in the comments later. I would be happy to answer them. One of the main reasons I do this is really just because I'm doing it anyway. And I'm just happy to kind of share the process and talk about anything you want to talk about regarding art. And I'm just happy to help. A lot of looking back and forth. One of the interesting things about the structure of the eye, and often overlooked, is, I don't know if you can see it, is the light falling on the underside of the eyebrow right here. And that's because, the whole frontal bone here, comes around here, and the eyebrow goes up over it. in many people's faces. So that the frontal bone is, of course, here underneath. And so getting that little light spot there, really ends up doing a lot. So if I come in here, if I can find a place to put my pinky, I don't have one. So just have to do it freehand. We'll see how much we can mess up. That little seemingly, what was that? But it told us more about what's really happening with the structure of the eye. And the light on that just travels a little bit this way. Okay, so just searching for those good bits of information. That information I just haven't quite got on the eyelid. I want to pay really close attention. There's light falling on the eyelids, but it's nowhere near as intense as, say, the cheekbone and the nose and the forehead, and that's a good thing. We will, you pay attention to that. Really is gonna send that eye back into the socket. If like, oh, I see a little bit of highlight here, I want to put it in. It's like, well, it's gonna end up not allowing some of those good things to happen, just because we get excited about some of the things we see. So that's a little too cool on that side. I'm gonna bring in some of my kind of purpley pinks, and I don't mind if it gets cooler as it travels in and around back there. That just wasn't quite right. And here's an interesting spot. So I talked about this earlier. I don't really see any eyelashes except for right here. And instead of trying to, work those all out, I'm going to use color. And it's not going to take much. Just a little bit of a cooler, kind of a greener color in this space will tell us about that there. It's I was gonna say it looks hairy, and all it is color. I didn't do anything. I just paid attention to, as I unfocus my eyes and I look at it, there's what happens there is kind of a green color. That's it. And then all of a sudden it feels as though I painted an eyelash, but I did no such thing. So I just really recommend against getting out your little brush and it's just not what's there. It's adding detail that is really unnecessary, and you're making a painting. I think that's always you have to get on my soapbox at least one time each live stream. If you're making a painting, you're not trying to create a perfect, flawless representation of what you're working on. That's the camera's job. job is to make something imperfect that has life, because it's made with a lot of imperfect little strokes. So on the top of this eyebrow, it just looks, well, I know it to be just a little cooler. Now, I didn't really describe anything other than just a few shapes of color. Used something a little cooler on the edge here. There's going to be some reflective light coming from the blue, so just kind of thinking about that on that edge as I go up. Get my dark brush again, because there is, kind of one dark area. Again, this is me looking, not just assuming that, oh, it's an eyebrow. No. There's only kind of one spot here. Carefully drawing it, looking about the eye here, seeing that, right in here. Just a darker area. Didn't quite get it in there yet. There'll be some drawing and some slight kind of back and forth while that gets refined. But I just highly recommend learning to look rather than kind of assume what's there. Usually when I've got it wrong or something, I was like, it's not working. It's usually because I've kind of assumed, oh yeah, that's what's happening there. Bit of reflected light underneath. Come back into this area. Just a little bigger than what I have it. Much better. Okay, let's hop over to the other eye. This is a great transition right here. It's, that's a little exaggerated, but it's just, it's nice, it's cool, it's beautiful. We're gonna kind of tune into it. Similarly, I do already kind of have that mark there. We talked about that kind of one dark area here, one dark area here. The side's in a little bit better shape, at least in terms of that. A little more reflective light is visible in this one. So there's a little bit of an outline of the eyelid as it comes around here into shadow. If you're going to be around tomorrow, I should be back, I think, sometime tomorrow during the day. Be working on the companion piece. This is Mary, and then I've got a Joseph that I'll be working on. Tomorrow's exciting too, because I have to switch it up. All my best laid plans aren't happening. This is the longer that I looked at what I had built for the composition. I was increasingly unhappy with it, and so I've kind of gone back to the drawing board and rebuilt another mock-up using a kind of a composite face. So get ready for that. Tomorrow, probably about the same time, although I might choose to do it in the morning. I don't know. Okay, I think with the addition of paying attention to a little bit of this shadow in there. I think that's about it for this eye as well. Okay, I will see if I can clean it up a little bit. We'll see what we have after this. Again, each of these strokes is a little rounded movement. Trying to follow what I imagine is, the form, trying to create these kind of rounded spaces. Okay. The hardest thing about live streams is I've got all this camera equipment around me, and I can't get up without, totally walking in front of the camera, making a mess of things, to step back and just see how's it all coming. It's always a big help to just step back. See it from afar. And actually, if I take a peek at the live stream, I can kind of see that. Okay. All right, kind of moving into the forehead. It's going to be the next move. Although I've noticed this edge here I really haven't dealt with. So I kind of key in, look at that spot. You know, if like I see something, you know, between these two colors as it kind of goes back in. That's a good starting point. Let's take it the next step. A little darker. That's gonna need a little bit of work still. All right, great. Let's move into the forehead with these last few minutes. I'll be sharing the entire composition on my Patreon. If you've been enjoying these videos, I don't do anything else on Patreon. There's no other extra video content. Frankly, I just don't have time to. But I do things like share the painting. Also, you get to check out. There will be a video of this painting and all the rest of them in their spaces. And in fact, the big thing is if you live anywhere near Wichita, Kansas, I just recommend becoming a patron for these next few months, because you're going to get to tour all these paintings in their intended place. It's a patron-only event. Don't miss it. That's all I gotta say. It's a little darker here on the edge. And when I get this light, kind of yellowy head covering layer up here added in there too, that'll look really nice. And really, I think the forehead is, I don't know if that I need to do much more to it, except I might just kind of soften some of these transitions a little bit. Just buff it out some. A lot of times I'll just kind of work back and forth some of these areas. And you know, I just think that's really about it. I mean, the rest is going to become so much. This kind of really fine refinement of certain spaces. It will be hard to make out on the video. So I'm so grateful you dropped in. If you dropped off a question in the chat, sorry, I was totally not able to see it, and so I have got to go ahead and wind things down. I want to respect your time, respect my time, and yeah, drop off your questions in the comments later, and I will get to them. Thanks for watching today, and please become a patron. Thanks.